Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV. It's Friday night, afternoon. What's 5 o'clock? Is that
evening?
Evening. It's Friday evening, and it's James and Guna Lee on your screens. AFTV. We are closing in on the return of Premier League football. We even had the return of some Carabao Cup football. The likes of Kevin De Bruyne setting up Erling Haaland, bringing back both fond memories of the fact that we love the Premier League and that there are great players and real quality football on show, yet also the terror of that's what we're facing between now and the rest of the season.
I mean, do you know what? I probably would say for most of the league, but I think with our defence, I'm not as worried probably as most other people.
I love that,
and I'm sure we're going to get into it. But
I was going to ask, is it because of that guy?
There's a certain player right behind us who is on that screen, and he's given me a lot of optimism to be quite confident. But yeah, listen, man, football's back finally, and I'm sure you're happy. I'm happy as well, man. So let it come.
Yeah, I mean, the whole World Cup reflection's been done by everyone. There's not really much more I can add. What I would say is that I'm happy it's back because I learned a lot about what I love about football during this World Cup, and what I mean by that is drama isn't enough for me. Just big moments and last minute goals and things like that, they're great. And I think when you're watching a 38 week season in which there are 10 matches, you know, for each round of games, then the drama stands out in those moments, and then the quality shines in those moments as well. But largely I just realised that when I'm watching two teams and actually sit down and I tuck into a game of football, I want to actually be watching quality. And while I thought there were lots of quality players on show, I felt the international teams largely lacked a little bit of quality and were finding a way to win rather than deploying a real identity or style of football throughout the tournament.
And do you know what? I was looking at it, I was saying a lot of the international teams, they don't press that much.
No,
it's not that.
You're right.
And
I think we said that last time.
And I think there's a lot of people saying that Southgate should go and who should be the replacement. They wanted the Chelsea manager, Graham Potter, and I said, you know what, I'm not too sure he would do as well, only because I look at it and I'm saying to myself, he needs a lot of time, and that time is something that you don't get in those tournaments. And you know, a lot of Gary Neville's takes on the reason why people like Harry Maguire, even though he's out of form, not played, will still play, is due to the fact that there's not enough time. You don't get that day in, day out on the training ground. So look, like, I think ultimately you're right, the quality wasn't as amazing, but I will say the drama was incredible.
Probably the best I've ever known at any tournament.
It was really good. And look, I think when people were saying it was the best World Cup ever, probably for me the best World Cup ever was 2002, wasn't it? When Japan, Brazil win it. Yeah, Japan, and that was just because I was just in awe of Japan, and I was just Japan or Brazil, and I just remember Ronaldo being like just that guy. He was just that guy who was so good. So yeah, listen, for me that's my feeling on it. But ultimately I do think the drama been really, really good. Quality not all that amazing at times, but yeah, look, we're back to Premier League football, and yeah, man, let's get going, man. Let's get going.
Look, it is West Ham on Boxing Day. There are previews, guys. There's Box to Box. There's the preview of me and Robbie all coming out. So we'll sink our teeth into West Ham, you know, throughout the coming days. But, you know, obviously there is a lot of apprehension. No, is apprehension the word? There's a lot of, I say, raised eyebrows. Okay, so what are Arsenal going to deliver now? The first 14 games, borderline perfect, because we were 1-0 up at Southampton and probably were unlucky not to win that, even though we didn't play very well, and we lost at Old Trafford having played very well. So there was sort of very, very little to fault about the way Arsenal approached that for those first 14 games of the season, if anything. But now the eyes are on us, you know. Okay, Jesus is missing. Okay, now we've had that break in momentum. The last two mid-season results haven't gone perfectly. Lost to Juventus and drew behind closed doors with Luton. So there's a very interesting dynamic around Arsenal going into this West Ham game, which is kind of, well, the expectation is here, but maybe we're not carrying that same enthusiasm we did post Wolves.
It's a tough one, you know, because I look at it and I'm saying to myself, right, the first 14 games in the Premier League, we also have to include the fact that we actually did lose to Brighton in the Carabao Cup. I know that's not the Premier League, but that's still a cup competition where, in truth, if we don't win the Premier League, you'll probably say that's our second best opportunity to win a trophy. So, look, for me, I look at it very simplistically, and I say we were excellent, really, really good before the World Cup started. I just think now we need to be really cautious and realistic about what is going to happen, because there are some hard games that we've got even in the first 6 games back.
Yeah.
We also have to think about the condensed game time that they're going to be, some of these players are going to have to play. Martinelli, Saka, they're going to be playing game in and game out. We haven't got anyone at the moment. Reece Nelson's out. Marquinhos probably isn't that guy so far. So I think even that in itself is another thing where you're going to probably look at it and say, those players need to be on the ball, ready and fighting. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of things that we can dissect. My main thing is, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, are these World Cup players who were fighting to get into those positions before the World Cup, when there was that 14-game stretch in the Premier League, playing game in and game out, playing extremely well, wanting to get into that World Cup and national team and start, are they actually going to be the ones that are going to be carrying the team? So you think of Martinelli and Saka, are they going to drop their momentum? We think about, I know he doesn't play for us, Van Dijk. Everyone kept saying he's not playing well for Liverpool because he's saving all of his energy for the Netherlands, because he's never played in the World Cup before or any international tournament. So I think that's my main thing about a lot of the players throughout all the Premier League teams, but especially with Arsenal. I just don't want to see the levels drop. You can lose a game. That can happen. We battered Juventus the other day. I saw you do the watch along with Lee Judges as well. And for me, I just think it was just one of those days. I didn't fault anyone's effort at all. I just thought that we just, unfortunately, just didn't really get, well, the main objective was to get the ball in the back of the net, and we didn't do it. So that's just where I'm at. I'm just hoping levels don't drop, because there's going to be some really difficult games, and there are some hard games, and we just have to make sure that we're back in the team, we're there with the team, and you know, we get through this difficult period, because we're obviously losing Jesus as well. Yeah,
one player that we don't want to lose, and it's not just it's not even an injury rated discussion. It's this guy, it's William Saliba. Saliba contract standoff is what we've gone for. I don't think that's overselling it. Let's actually let you know what has been said in The Athletic by Gunner Blog, James McNicholas. Essentially, here's the paragraph where he says it. For a young player like Saliba, they're talking about his contract. For a young player like Saliba, there's definitely a sliding scale in place that the longer the club want to commit him for, the more they have to pay. Now that makes a lot of sense, because if you want to tie him down to a 1 or 2 year extension, probably don't have to promise him much more, because he won't have to wait much longer to then get that opportunity, and maybe it's about protecting security for the short term, whatever. But if you want to tie him down to a 5-6 year contract, then naturally it's like, okay, that means it's probably 5-6 years before, at least with the club, I'm renegotiating this contract, and therefore maybe in 6 years time, maybe today the contract you're offering me is more than I'm worth, but when it comes to 5 years time, I'm worth more than what you're paying me. Or maybe I look at Harry Kane, couldn't get his move to Man City because you could argue overcommitted to Spurs in the contract. And so they're very fragile things, aren't they? Because you're looking at time, you're looking at amount, you're looking at agent fees, all this stuff. Anyway, the rest of the paragraph says, this is effectively the inverse of what tends to happen with older players, where the length of the contract is more desirable than the basic pay. One of the reasons Saliba's contract remains unsigned for now is that Arsenal are not offering a wage his representatives consider commensurate, yeah, with the long deal the club want to tie him down to, and so talks go on. Essentially, it sounds like they want to offer him here. His representatives believe he's worth this, considering the amount of time they want to tie him down for.
I mean, I know you asked the questions, but I wanted to ask you a question.
Go on.
And it's obviously on this situation. If, well, I mean, as a club representative, let's just imagine in an ideal world, you were, I wish you were, how much would you want to pay Saliba? And from the other side, how much do you think Saliba should get? I think they are two different questions.
They absolutely are. What's he on now, do you think?
I think he's
30, 40?
I think he's on about 40k.
Maybe not even.
Because this is still the same first contract, isn't it? And he's signed.
So funny, whenever I'm talking about player contracts and what they should get, I always sit there thinking, I don't know many other professions where we're where we scrutinise so much what earnings are a very private thing, right? But at the same time, it's because footballers are such stars, and it's part of the overall package of signing a player and all that. That's why it gets talked about.
So bearing in mind as well, right? Obviously, I don't know if people are watching this around the world. Obviously, taxes, anything over 50, 60k, you're getting 40% tax, and then you can possibly get 50% tax depending on if you obviously earn even more. So if he's earning £100,000 per week or month or whatever it is, in truth it's 50k.
I think he is,
bearing in mind
this might sound crazy, I think he is worth around 100 to 120k per week. But if I were representing him, I would want to go around the 150 mark. The reason I say that is because I think he's now performed for a prolonged period of time, that being from when he was at Saint Etienne through to now this first half season at Arsenal, where every sort of small level up, and don't forget Marseille last season were competing for the title for a bit and finished second place, I believe, and now at Arsenal he's in a team playing out of his skin, gets called up to the World Cup, has been part of Deschamps' starting 11s before. I think he's someone that he's worth the risk. Now, is he necessarily worth that? No, but I think what he's done makes him worth the risk, if that makes sense.
Do you know what? I'll be honest. I think you're actually lowballing him. I would have gone 170.
Wow.
And you know the reason why?
I thought I was not going high, but I didn't want to go too far.
I would have gone 170, 180. I'm sure it would be interesting to see what the comments say. And the reason why I say that is because you look at what he's done for this team. Now, for me, he is genuinely transformative. The fact that we leave two at the back, the reason why we play the way we do is because we can trust Saliba and Gabriel to basically withstand any counter attacks with the likes of Partey. You then think about the amount of goals, and well, I say goals, some of the goals he's scored so far, the way that he's come into the team now, and you can see that progression you've seen from Saint Etienne to Marseille to now being at Arsenal, that steady progression. So if you extrapolate that over the next 5-6 years, what player are we going to get? I then think about the fact that Martinelli's just got 200k. Now I know he's been here longer and done a little bit more, but I also think that you have to reward, well, I mean, let me not talk about Martinelli's money, but from what we're hearing, it's a £200,000 per week.
Those are the rumours.
The rumours that he's going to be getting. So I just think we have to now not be scared to give players money. We can't be scared to give the likes of players anymore because of what happened with Ozil and Aubameyang. We have to go in there and say, do you know what? This is what we're not begging to keep you because we have no one else, because that's what Ozil was. That was the Ozil situation. We had nobody else, hence why we had to give him 300k. We had Alexis Sanchez. We had to offer that money because we had no one else. We now have to think about rewarding these players because they are so good.
Okay.
And I think that's the difference. So for me, I think 120, 130 is actually quite low. I think he should be more 170, 180k. And I know guys are going to say, oh, I sound crazy and it's only 14 games. But guys, I think we have to think about genuinely, we look like we have a generational talent on our hands. And I think for me, I just think that we've cut the wage bill. We're getting rid of more players in the future, the likes of Cedric, the likes of Rob Holding, the likes of Pepe, the likes of Tavares possibly. You know, I just think all encompassing, I just think 120, 130 is very low in my opinion.
So I'm just having a look at what some of the other players are supposedly on. I won't go through all the numbers because again, I mean, it's funny, right? Because these are quite private things, but obviously as it's so public in the world of football. Okay, I think yes, having a look at what some of the other Arsenal players are on, I think I have gone too low there and would come to 130, 140, but I wouldn't do much more than that. I think a lot of it is still based off potential. You know, I love Saliba. None of this is to drag him down at all, but if I'm just to make a case on the Arsenal side, I'd be saying, we've only seen you for 14 games in the Premier League, and you started brilliant. The whole team's been fantastic. So let's see how you respond when things go a little bit, you know, when we have a bit of a bad patch, when things go a little bit rough. We'll see then. He's still very young. You can offer a 5-year deal and say, but but there's clauses and whatever. In 2 years, we'll revise that and we'll tie you down to a better one. You can also, therefore you're protecting your security, but we're also promising we're incentivizing you to keep doing well, and in the coming years we'll reflect that. I think Martinelli No, who was it? Someone signed very recently and is already being looked at for an extension.
Aaron Ramsdale.
Is Aaron Ramsdale?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, there we go. So that's an example of what I mean.
But can I just interrupt you in that one point? That's more of a gentleman's agreement, which we've seen with someone like Harry Kane has gone against him.
Yeah.
So I think from Saliba's side of things, because we have to always, guys, I think we always have to remember, we can't just look at it from an Arsenal fan. We have to also look at it from what the players thinking and what they're seeing around the league. And he's thinking, all right, well, Aaron Ramsdale has been rightly rewarded, but that's not a guarantee that it's going to happen for me. They may think that, oh, I'm doing really well and I'm earning my wage, not that I should get more. So I just think for me, pay the man what he's worth. If he's one of the best centre-backs in the league right now, pay the man what he's worth. And football and sports is all about what have you done for me lately. And lately, guys, I'm not going crazy when I say this, I think he's been one of the best centre-backs in the world.
Yeah, no,
he actually has been, and I know it's for only 14 games, but he has been on form, the way he's playing, one of the best centre-backs in the world. He's actually outplayed, I think, for the course of the season, our best or number one centre-back in Gabriel. So I just think that in itself is another thing where I just think, give the man, give him the money, man. Give him the 170, 180, and maybe, even if I agreed with you and I said, you know what, 150 and with incentives, you know, something like that, which I think would maybe incentivize him even more to kind of push on and keep progressing, because, you know, money can be a massive problem and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I think just the 130, 140 that you kind of alluded to at first is a little bit low. In London, in a London waiting, man. In a London waiting, give the man the money, pay that man.
I'm going to go through the comments. Some fascinating comments come in. Let me just read a little bit more of what was said in this article by James McNicholas. He then says, even once personal terms are agreed, there's the thorny issue of agent fees to consider. It is not unheard. Why can't I read today? You know why? Because nearly the holidays. Just come back from holiday, and I'm just being useless. Anyway, even once personal terms are agreed, there's a thorny issue of agent fees to consider. It is not unheard of for the players' terms to be agreed in their entirety, but the contract signing to be delayed as the club and agent haggle over commission. This is an important part of the negotiations that should not be overlooked. The perception is that Arsenal should be in a hurry to get these deals done, but there are two factors that offer them some security. First off, in many cases they have contract options. Martinelli's contract runs till 2024, but Arsenal have the option to trigger a further 2 years. That makes the situation markedly less urgent from their perspective. Saliba and Saka's contracts run no longer than 2024, even with extensions, which makes their situations more pressing. Even then, Arsenal are afforded some measure of protection by the transfer window calendar. Clubs know that they can't lose a player outside of January or in the summer, and this means negotiations between two windows can drag. So does that
mean that their contracts actually do end next summer 2023, but we've triggered the extension? Is that what they're saying for the last two, so Saliba and Saka?
I'm not sure. I think they were always destined to end 2024. I think they just aren't extensions.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's what it is. So it's interesting. Look, from Saliba's perspective, I have no ill feeling towards all this. Go get what you believe you're worth. I believe everyone in life should, and go. He's a young player, and there'll be agents who are looking after him, trying to set him up in the best way possible, not just financially, but for his footballing career, his future. There's absolutely going to be an ingredient in this, which is about, well, what if Real Madrid come knocking? Am I better off there? What if, yeah, I'm so happy at Arsenal now, but in a year or two's time I feel differently. How tied down do I want to be? And then they can price me out of a move. I think footballers think about this stuff more than ever. You see more free transfers than ever before, because I think players are being a bit clever with the kind of contracts they sign and backing themselves to then be able to find opportunities beyond. So I think that's all a part of it. But it'll be interesting. Do you think he's going to sign?
You know what? I'm going to stick to what I think I know and heard, rather than like all of these kind of listen, I like James. I follow him on I like you, and I like James Nicholas, the actual the journalist. I follow him on Twitter, but sometimes I do think it's a little bit of scaremongering. I just think that
Well, like from the club filtering through, or from William Saliba's representative?
From whoever. It could be from the journalist himself, from the club, it could be from whoever. Sometimes I just think that there are things put out there just almost for the sake of it. I could be reading too much into it, or maybe not enough into it, but I think he will sign. I don't
know. By the way, I think what you're talking about absolutely exists. I think there are people who generate stories for the attention of Arsenal. I really wholeheartedly don't think this is one of them. I think this is an interesting update that actually, when we really stop and think about it, we probably saw coming, because when you think about it, it'd been very quiet on the contract front. Whereas with Saka and Martinelli, there was always, whether it be a murmur from Martinelli, whether it be Arteta speaking on how happy he is with Saka or whatever, there'd always be something that would be a question or an answer around the contract that would make you feel quite positive. On the Saliba one, I can't really remember any lines from Arteta or Saliba that have made me think, yeah, he's signing, it's just a matter of time.
Do you know what's funny as well, right? Because I don't know if you remember the first live we did when the World Cup sort of started, and one of the questions you did when we did the fire questions was, who's the most important to sign out of Saka?
Yeah, we did a poll. Yeah.
And the poll, everyone said Saliba. I think everybody said Saliba for these reasons. So look, I think everybody understands that there is a tiny bit of worry. I just don't know how much I'm going to be that scared as of now, because look, James has said himself, there is basically another two windows for us to kind of get this done. The summer window coming up and in January.
Yeah.
So we've got a bit of time. To sort that, and I think it will get done. I mean, I don't think Arsenal want to lose a player like Saliba, so they're gonna eventually. I think they're gonna have to bow down anyway. So
DB9 says that Saliba will run down his contract. Do you think it will get to that?
Nah.
I don't. I think he'll either sign or Arsenal say, all right, let's get 60-70 million.
Yeah, 100%. They're not. We're not the same stupidly run club when we had all of these sort of sports directors before. United. He's kind of stepped up as well, and Eddie looks good. So I think he's currently working that barbecue, mate, because we've got some players to buy, man. Come on, Eddie.
Let's have a little look. We're all accountants in terms of these players' contracts, huh? Says Grumpy Doctor. Yeah. No, but we can all offer opinion. We all know,
But do you know what though? That's the difference between Arsenal, and that's a great point by that last comment. I think the issue that Arsenal have been scarred with for so many years, rather than someone like maybe Man United or someone even like Man City, is they just get their stuff done. So their fans don't have to be accountants. Their fans don't have to think, is De Bruyne going to get this £300,000, because they're not really limited by anything.
No, but also we hear things about an FFP rumour
that doesn't matter, man.
Or well, we don't, we need to see what the funds are like. We don't want to eat into the summer. But we always hear those kind of things. We never really hear that about other clubs that we're supposedly competing with. That's why we turn into accountants trying to figure it out. And also, we couldn't move on Lacazette and Aubameyang because no one would pay their wage. Or eventually, until we cancelled a contract and they'll run out. So, I think that is why we ultimately turn into this well, let's figure this out. Let's do some quick maths and let's try and figure out whether, this actually makes any sense in our heads, because that's kind of the way Arsenal have always been.
Yeah, and it's annoying as well. You're right, because you look at it and you're saying, this is such a simple move to make. Just get it signed. Get him signed. He's earned a new contract. We know that he's 2021. He's an up and coming player. And look, my last thing I'm going to probably say on this is this Gabriel that's is it Leipzig, the centre back or the left centre back, whoever he kind of plays for his club team. He's going to get a move to Real Madrid, Chelsea, or wherever it is. Yeah, he's 2021. How much is he going to be getting?
Probably a lot. Probably around the number you're saying.
Probably around that number. So that is what you got to match your age mates. You got to match the players who are going to be moving to these big clubs and getting that big money. And we can't be strapped by, well, let's do this and do that. We have to just pay a man or woman, for a female or men's team, what they deserve. And I think it was even Medina, the striker for Arsenal. She was about to leave. They paid her what she wants. She stayed another year. Get it done.
Christian says, James, will the greed of representatives cost us? I mean, we have seen, like, just across the history of football, agents perhaps demand fees that scupper deals, and sometimes maybe they don't act in the best interest of their clients. But I have no reason to believe that would be the situation we're in. I think Saliba strikes me as someone who knows what he wants and what he wants to do. He plays that way. When he signed for Arsenal, releasing the video that he'd signed, I think he likes to come across as someone very in control, knows what they're doing, blah blah. And I think ultimately, if he wants to sign for Arsenal, I don't think what the agents are, willing to be paid by Arsenal will affect that. I think if he wants to stay, he'll stay, and it's about getting the right figure for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, you're right. Like, just he needs to feel valued. He needs to feel that he's worth the time to stay here. He needs to understand that this is a project that he's part of. He's one of the leaders of this project, and ultimately, like, Arteta needs to sort of repay. Well, he's been repaying Arteta with his performances. Now the club needs to give him something back. And look, when you run down the contract even further and further, it only goes to the advantage of the player. So get it done now. Yeah. The more time you leave it, the more desperate the club become. Just get it signed. Get it signed tomorrow.
Yeah, I hear you. We're going to go through some of the other news of the day and chat maybe a little bit more about this Saliba stuff. I am desperate for a glass of water, so I'm just going to really unprofessionally run off set and quickly grab one. So I'm going to leave you with the comments. Goonlee, send them in. Christian, we got your super chat, didn't we? Yes. Yeah. We're back in 10 seconds. 10 seconds is exaggerating. We'll be back in 20 seconds.
No, it's right, guys. So what we saying about the signing of this? Hold on, actually, Arsenal are a nice club when it... King Arthur says, Arsenal are a nice club when it comes to contracts. They will panic in the end like Ozil. And this is my point. That was my absolute point. My point was, when it comes to it, we're going to have to pay him what he wants, because we don't want to get into another Alexis Sanchez situation. We don't want to get into another Ozil situation, And even Aubameyang, look, he probably signed the thing because he knew that we were desperate and we were going to pay him that 300,000, 280,000 pounds per week, and we probably didn't need to. We probably didn't need to. So that's the annoying thing. I just think that once you get it done, the quicker you get it done, I really just think that you as a club, you kind of make it easier for yourself to get a good deal. You can sort of meet in the middle. But when you leave it later and later, you get the Walcott signed the thing, you get the Ozil signed the thing, you get the Alexis Sanchez signed the thing, you get the Aubameyang signed the thing. This is 4 big powerhouse players that have all basically made Arsenal bend over for them. And at the time, we could have really, if we were smart, played it a lot better and had their contracts sorted a little bit earlier. So we didn't have to pay them the money that we wouldn't have been cash strapped having to pay these stupid players the money, and we could have got them off the books a lot easier and a lot quicker. But when you leave it so late, these are the issues that come, like where we get stuck with these money grabbers or whatever it is. That maybe they just lose confidence, maybe they just lose the sight on the ball because they're getting so much money, and you can't get rid of that kind of stain. So these are the things where I just think, just if you pay it earlier, just makes the club, you just protect the club even more. You could protect the player as well.
So what big contracts were given out recently? It was, I remember the Walcott contract in 2012. I remember the Ozil one in 2018. Mkhitaryan, Aubameyang. Okay, Mkhitaryan's a signing actually. All right, that doesn't count. So Ozil, Aubameyang. Who else did we tie down to a big deal?
Well, it was Sanchez. We tried to with Van Persie, but the ball didn't really want to give him the money or the length of contract. And someone even said, I know this was a long time ago, but someone said Anelka. I think there was times where we was meant to try and give him a little bit more money, and again, he knew he had his plan and he knew that he wanted to kind of get a certain value, and they didn't want to give it to him. So he obviously went to Real Madrid because he pushed for that move. So I just think you can go as far back as those times to now. And again, I just really hope that the club have learned. We've been burnt so many times. And the biggest ones, the most recent ones, as you think about, as you said, are Aubameyangs, Walcott's, and Ozil's. And I just think when you don't have to give these players this big contract, you protect the club and you protect the player. Because even let's say we give Saliba 180k and he starts to perform poorly, that's actually negligence on the club in a way, because you could say to them, well, you've given him too much money, but the reason why he's giving him too much money because you've left it so late. You've left it late and you've basically given in to his demands. And that's another thing you can look at.
You see, with the Ozil, Aubameyang and Walcott contracts,
Ashley Cole,
Arsenal were actually semi in decline, or they certainly weren't progressing the way we wanted them to. And so giving them the contracts was more of like a panic, in the sense of, we can't possibly lose these players. You know, things aren't going the way we want as it is, so we need to keep them and we need to make them feel important, and hopefully that will show enough ambition to then attract others. The reality is, I think where the Saliba contract is different is that he's come in, and whether chicken and egg, I suppose, has he improved and looked so good because this Arsenal team have looked brilliant, or has he come in and made this Arsenal team brilliant? But for whatever reason, the marriage of William Saliba alongside Gabriel in this Arsenal defence, with White at right back as well, has soared Arsenal to a level of performance we haven't seen probably for 10 years, I'd argue. I don't know if Arsenal have looked as good as they have in this first half of the season at any point in the last 10 years, in my opinion. And I think because the trajectory has been so clearly up recently for Arsenal, I think it makes it different. Now it's about tying down William Saliba because he's a part of everything that's going so well, and we want to build on that, rather than this panic of, well, we can't possibly lose another player. You know, we can't possibly have any more bad news around the club when it comes to player recruitment and squad building, so let's just ultimately give them whatever wage they probably don't deserve, but we feel we've got to give. You know, I do feel like it's a different situation where I think Arsenal would actually feel very happy to reward Saliba in this situation, rather than maybe in the past they felt it's a contract situation they kind of had to do rather than one maybe wanted to.
I think going back to the first point you made about the chicken and egg thing, I really do think the reason why Arsenal are playing so well is because Saliba is really an outstanding player and has almost transformed the team. And as I said, I think the fact that we can leave the way we attack and the way we set up in our defensive shape, we almost sometimes do leave two centre backs and maybe Partey just in front,
literally,
knowing that we can have those two central defenders there. Saliba is such a strong man and a strong defender in his own right, that he can cover the centre back and left back role when right back role when Ben White goes forward. So I just think that's where we're at with someone like Saliba. That's how good he is. From that part, I then move on to the fact that he needs to be paid handsomely well. He needs to be paid handsomely well because he's earning his stripes. He's earning his stripes in the league still after these 14 games. But we're also forecasting, as you said, what's going to happen in the future. And I think, going back to my point, what I was saying to you earlier, if you extrapolate the fact that where he's come from and where he is now, if we're now thinking about what he's going to be in the next 3-4 years, you have to pay that person knowing that maybe you're not going to have to extend that contract in the future in the next 3 or 4 years. And in the 5th year, then he gets a new contract that he's hopefully won a league, he's hopefully made us get to the semi-finals, quarter-finals of this Champions League, etc., etc. And he's been instrumental in his own progression and the club's progression. And so, I just think it's such an important deal, and we've been burnt from this for a long time, as you said. Like so many players over years and years where they've just been able to run. Aaron Ramsey is another one. I just forgot. He got away at the wrong time. I know he had injuries, but we should have definitely kept Aaron Ramsey for another 1 or 2 more years. Yeah. And it's not the fact that his contract ran out when he did, but it's the fact that we maybe should have done the contract maybe 2 years earlier, which would have given him that 3 or 4 extra years to stay at the club and progress. And you know, he's gone on to pastures new now, but has he been instrumental or loved at any of the clubs? Juventus, Rangers, the team in France, is it Nice? No. So please, Arsenal, man, just do the right thing. learn from your mistakes. That's what a wise man will always say to you. Learn from your mistakes.
So the tweet and some of the other stuff he covered, James McNicholas / Gunner Blog, find him at Gunner Blog, covers Arsenal for The Athletic, and also he does Arsecast Extra as well, as you would know with Arseblog. He has said that Arsenal are likely to trigger the 2-year Patino extension this week. So I guess that means that there's an extension clause, 2 years they can add to Patino's contract. That's likely what they're going to do. He's enjoying his time on loan. I don't know how it's gone very recently, but before the World Cup, I know he was having an amazing time. Not that he played, but at the World Cup, you get what I mean. So yeah, again, I quite like that, protecting the younger players. He talks about potential competition for Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly as well. It feels like Arsenal are trying to juggle both doing business in the transfer window and make sure they get the right reinforcements, with making sure that, well, okay, whilst one comes in, another doesn't just leave without us even realising. There's a lot to juggle here, and what I've always found fascinating is, almost if I could have Edu or Arteta in a room and we'd ask a million questions, but one of them would definitely be, when it comes to signing players, you know, is person A working on that deal and person B is working on that deal, or is it a team and therefore there's only limited times in the day? You know, whether we like it or not, they're going to take time off, they're going to have their weekends, whatever it is. Are they having to divide that time perfectly to deal with, well, this signing first, and then together we'll work on that, and they do start making phone calls here while we're trying to get that over the line? I'd love to know how that all works, because there's a lot here for Arsenal to deal with, from the 3 contracts, Martinelli, Saka, Saliba, to you know,
Ramsdale
whatever,
as well.
Ramsdale, to whatever signings, to Patino, to now the youngsters. I mean, it's a lot to deal with.
And incomings, outgoings as well, if you think about
Outgoings,
that.
yeah.
And I think, look, we saw a little bit of an insight when we were watching the All or Nothing documentary, when the situation was happening with Aubameyang and the amount of people that were involved. I know there was a lot of contractors and lawyers, and it's because of the contract. Was he doing this right? Were they Arsenal acting accordingly? But at the time when he was in Barcelona, I think there were 3 or 4 main powerhouses at Arsenal in the room with Edu, ensuring that that was being sorted correctly. And I think those are probably part of that transfer in and out, contract renewals kind of team. So, you know, I'm sure there are a lot of people, a lot of jigsaws to make this whole thing come together. So you're right, but I just think sometimes you just have to almost get a man in a room and say, we're not leaving until we've got this done. Like, seriously, we have to sometimes just get that done, because, you know, why is it that at Man City these things never come out like this? Why is it that at Chelsea these things never ever come out? You know, why is it even at Liverpool of recent, these things never come out with Michael Edwards, the previous sporting director before he left? None of these things ever come out. It seems to be mostly sort of Man United. They kind of got sort of drawn through the mud with someone like Rashford at this moment in time, Martial at times, David De Gea at times. He's kind of done the whole new contract, this, that and the other. And at Arsenal, those are the only 2 clubs that kind of seem to get into these positions. And I just think, come on, we have to get better now. And we have got better, because we've sorted possibly Martinelli, that's good. We've sorted Gabriel, we're sorting Ramsdale. So we are seeming to learn, but we still got a lot of work to go and to be the best out of all the other top 6 teams.
So last time we did do that poll, you're right, we did the which player is more important to tie down, or which would you prioritise, probably the way we put it. So I guess my question is, I'm going to ask you about the player. I'm going to ask you if you think they'll sign. Actually, is that what I'm going to... Yeah, let me just ask that. Saka, do you think he'll sign?
Yes.
Martinelli?
I mean, well, that looks to be done, but yeah.
Yeah, and Saliba?
Yeah.
I think they'll all sign.
Yeah. Now, the other part of it, maybe to ask you now, how long do you think Martinelli's the end of his contract will last? Or would it be 3 or 4, 5-year contract?
I think it's a 4 or 5 year. 4 with an option. I think
Saka.
that's what it would be. I think he'll also do 4 with an option. Maybe a 2-year option.
Saliba.
Just a straight 4, I think.
I was going to say I think the other two are 5. So Martinelli and Saka are 5 years, and I think that Saliba will do 3.
Someone commented earlier, you guys are talking about something you don't know or don't understand, and he's right. I don't know how any of this works, from the player side to the agent side to the club side. But maybe Arsenal might just agree something with Saliba that's along the lines of, all right, we'll shorten the contract because this is the only financial commitment we're willing to make to you now. However, you know, they might be thinking to themselves, but if we say we won a Premier League title, or say we do something special in the next 2-3 years, that gives us even more negotiation power and perhaps more funds to play with when it comes to renegotiating his extension then. So they might just gamble on them doing well and the project going in the direction they want. Let me ask you about signings, and there was a question that came up earlier in the chat. I will try and find who asked the question, but essentially a realistic January that you'd be happy with, what does it look like?
It's a tough one, you know, because I think I have to think about what the aims are. Are you asking me to win the league, or are you asking me to get top 4?
That's up to you. You've got this position, you're in this position, and you can make any realistic signing you want and as many as you want, but it's, you know, they've got to be realistic. So I don't think it's realistic to sign 10-20 million pound players, but I mean, you know.
Look, I think if we're going for the league, because we're in that position and we have to, you know, all the talk that Arteta keeps saying, we just before we started the stream, we was talking about the Arteta interview that he had with Carragher, and there's some quotes, some fantastic quotes where he's saying about Arsenal knowing the position that they're in, the board are willing to back them. Arteta seems to have a war chest every single time. He's getting the players. He spent 150 million.
Except for last January.
Okay, last January, no. But like, my point is that if this is the case, then I would expect 3 players in.
3.
If that's the case, I think Mudryk, I think that's been spoken about so many times. I think he's a wonderful player. He's really good, and I think Arteta can do some really good things with him. So that'll be 1.
Yeah,
I would 110% get a defensive midfielder, because I can see Lukonga leaving. So I would look at maybe getting a defensive midfielder. I know there's players like Patino that are coming up, and we have to make space for them. But I think he would actually be the replacement for Xhaka. That's why I think we're not getting anyone actually.
You think?
I think Patino's going to come into the team next season.
See, because I still, in my fantasy world, think that Tielemans might be joining.
You could be. I don't see it anymore. I think we're going to keep ESR and we're going to make him the left 8 forward in that replacement for Xhaka, and I think Patino will come in there. You still got Fabio Vieira that can play in that position as well. So I think a DM, and I would probably, just for the sake of it, I would say a left-sided centre back, just to be backup for Gabriel, and I think that would be enough for me. I know people are going to say people like Zaha, I like him as well, so he could be another option. And I've heard some loose links to Ferran Torres and Marcus Thuram from Borussia Mönchengladbach, the French forward. So those are some other kind of options. I've heard some really good stuff about Ferran Torres being linked to us, so that's another option. But for me, I would definitely go for those players. Those positions.
No, yeah, you know, I like it. I would go 2. I think 2, but 2 that I think make a difference. So Mudryk, I think, makes a difference in the sense that if a Martinelli or Jesus can't play, and we have to rejig the front 3 and in comes Mudryk, I think, listen, I'm judging off YouTube, I don't know that much about the player, but he looks like a player whose level wouldn't drop if we had him in the team, or our level wouldn't drop if he were in the team. Otherwise, Tielemans, I still like that kind of player. I like a deep, creative 8. I like someone who wants to just get on the board and dictate the tempo of a game. So I have a lot of faith that Tielemans would be still a good signing. He's still one I'd like, but again, it's gone so quiet, they don't know. Maybe it's a good thing it's gone quiet.
Do you know what I wanted to ask you, and it's still in the transfer link, so we haven't been linked to him a lot, or at all, I don't think, but apparently there's a deal to get Depay for like £2 million if someone wants to get him.
Well, apparently, yeah, he is available for that little, but that just staggers me.
Would you kind of take a hunch? Because
over nothing.
£2 million. When I was talking to Matisse earlier on, I did a video of him on my channel, and he was he mentioned it to me, and when he said that, I was like, maybe at first I said no, But now I'm thinking about it. For £2 million,
Curtis was on this show, said he'd be up for it.
yeah. Do you know what? When I think £2 million for someone who, look, he's not a big game player. Sometimes I think his attitude is a little bit wayward, and he does flatter to deceive. But he is another body that is serviceable. You know, I think about serviceable players we have in our team, like a El Nene, like a Cedric, who can come in 1 or 2 games and do a job. You know, I think Depay, he can play that false number 9 role. He's got a good shot in him. He can be a little bit more deeper and create. You know, when I think about Depay, I don't rate him as a footballer like that. But I think for £2 million, I would take him 100%.
Dave says Depay is crap, waste of money, preferring Nketiah. You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah,
a lot of people are. Well, some people mention Depay's wages, but again, I don't. You know, ultimately, as a player, I think there's talent there, but I think it's been a lot of hot and cold. But I don't mind that kind of option. I also like the idea of a Ferran Torres. I bet you'd have a lot of people who tell you, you know, Ferran Torres, no, he's not it.
Yeah.
No, it didn't really happen for him at City. Not happy for at Barca. Don't do it. But I think there's, you know, I think there's a player there. I mean, I watched him play for City, and I thought he looked a cold finisher. And he looked someone who could play across the front three and cause problems. And he's never worked with Arteta, has he?
No, he didn't.
No, he's never worked with Arteta. But, you know, Arteta's got a good track record with wingers and forwards. Maybe that would be a good one. And when Jesus is fit, he can more naturally play out wide too. So I'd be up for that, something like that. But I'm sort of seeing, if a Mudryk can come for 55, 60 million, I think the reputation he's got, the highlights on YouTube, everything else suggests he's a good player, and I'd do a Tielemans. And maybe in 80, 85 mil, you've done, I don't know, you've done quite a lot to strengthen your depth and your options in the front three and midfield three.
And I think we have to remember as well, Mudryk has done it in the Champions League against top quality opposition, the likes of
3 goals and 2 assists, I think, in 6 games this
listen,
season.
even last season he did extremely well. I think Shakhtar Donetsk absolutely battered Real Madrid from pillar to post, and he was instrumental in that performance. And look, I'm not going to go off 1 or 2 games, but I do think that he has got a bit of star quality about him. He doesn't seem like a Pepe for us. So let's hope that he actually is actually quality, and he can produce in the Premier League, because that's what we want.
Zoe says that apparently Torres left because he wanted to be near his family in Spain. Fair enough. If that's true, then fine. But I mean, the thing is,
listen, mate, come to London. I'll find you the best paella spot ever, mate. I tell you, I've got some nice places in Soho for you. If you want to come Ferran Torres, I'll find you wherever you need. Bring your family over, and let's make this happen, man. If you want to come and you want to put the shirt on for Arsenal and perform well, I'm sure we'll all be able to accommodate you and kind of make this place your home, you know. And it is a real thing, because I think we always have to remember that these are real people and they have emotions and feelings. But listen, man, if Arsenal want you and we need a player like you, then come on, let's.
So would you be happy with Ferran Torres?
I say all that to say no. I say all that.
Come to Arsenal. I mean, I'm not bothered if you do, but come to Arsenal.
Listen, my thing is, right, this is my only issue why I say is because if Arteta wants a player, I back him. Yeah. That was why I said come to Arsenal, because I think if Arteta wants him, but I don't see the quality in him. The same way how I'm not that hyped on someone like Depay, but I was saying more so for the 2 million for it. But yeah, man, listen, I think I can accommodate him if he wants to come, man.
Games for Survival says Mudryk has the least passes completed for a winger in Europe. I mean, that isn't a stat that Arteta would like, but maybe sees. I don't know if that's true, by the way. But I'm going to trust you, Games for Survival. But I wonder if that's something. You know, Arteta isn't seeing players. Well, I don't know. I don't think he's seeing players. He's going, right, perfect, I'll drop you in and you fit in immediately, and you don't even need a training session. You know, he'll want to work on it. He's
21 as well, and you got to remember,
he's very young.
Look what Sterling was like when he was 21 years old, and now look what he is at 27. He's an absolute animal. So, I think that could be right. Like, no one's discrediting you, mate. But
full stats says Simon. Wow, it's Simon versus Games for Survival. Apparently, it's a false stat.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, yeah.
But being safe in possession is absolutely a key thing you're going to need.
Also, there were loose links to the Felix.
Right, Felix. More coming up. People are saying, Ash says, the Felix links are strengthening.
Do you like him as a footballer?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But I think we need a powerful winger who can play up front more so than we need a false 9 who can play out wide, if that makes sense. People might think I'm crazy for that, but yeah, I do. I think adding depth and quality in Martinelli and Saka's areas to help them out, but also between those three they can sort out when Jesus is away. I think that is a better approach for Arsenal than bringing in number 9. You know, let's say Vlahovic when he was linked. Okay, cool. When Jesus is back, you've got to do something with one of them. You know, one's on the bench or one's. But I like the idea that you know a Mudryk could come in, and if he's playing brilliantly when Jesus is fit, any one of their spots could be up for grabs. And I like that. I think that's the level of competition we need, and we need that players to have that slight uncertainty. You know, that slight if I'm not turning up here, I don't know if I'm going to keep my spot. I do think that's important. Ash says, how much does a Saliba replacement cost? He asks.
Well,
of his to get someone near his quality, you're taking a risk.
70-80 million
maybe.
His quality right now is on par with any top centre back within world football. Okay, maybe not top, but maybe let's say at least top 7, top 8 centre backs in the world. I'll probably take someone like David Alaba. I think he's performed extremely well in this time period. I was going to say Cecil, but I was actually thinking of the Brazilian centre back from Real Madrid, Militao. That's why I called him Cecil. I think still I'm not going to discredit him. Van Dijk is an excellent sort of centre back. I think Konate, excellent centre back, and Thiago Silva, another kind of top centre back, and he's in that cluster of player. I think he may not be number 1, but he's up there with those kind of caliber players at this moment in time. So if you're looking at that, those players are worth £70 million. So yeah, somewhere like that, somewhere around that fee is something that I'm kind of I'll be looking at if I had to replace him. So would you rather just pay the man what he wants, or near enough what he wants, or have to find another player, pay the money, and actually pay the wages?
Well, Dave Jordan says, so based on today's show, give Saliba 300k just to get it done and sign the pie. Lee, I normally agree with you, but you're struggling today.
No, I didn't say 300k. Come on, I didn't say Okay, look, Dave, I'll say this. 300k is.
Dave likes you. He sometimes he doesn't like us.
I would say, Dave.
Joking, love you, Dave.
I would say 300k is extortionate, and for that, he needs to come down, or we need to sell him. That's the only two. We can't give a man who's 21 years old and played 14 games in the Premier League 300k. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. But what I would say is,
Dave, what would you give? Carry on.
I would love to know Dave, what you would want to say. And it's not even me like getting at you. It's just interesting to hear.
No, I would be too, because I think he's picking on the whole get it done thing.
Yeah.
But it depends what you see as your. He says, but what if he's asking for 250 though? Just get it done? Question mark.
Yeah, no, Dave.
Ash says 200k is the ceiling. 170 ideal. Yeah. I think 200k would be my ceiling.
Yeah. Dave, I said 170, 180. That's what I said. I didn't go up. I didn't even say 200. I said, I said 170, 180. We originally used like 120, 130. I said you thought.
I wouldn't want to do 200, but but if it was like he's literally going to leave, then I'd be like, all right, I'll be useless.
The reason why I would do 200 is because Martinelli's on 200. I think with incentive, so I wouldn't mind matching that. Because they're around the same.
What I would say is, I don't know, because when you're measuring these contracts, right, they'll be thinking about minutes played for the club, and all sorts, appearances, and they'll be looking at other interests. There'll be lots of things that determine market value. But I don't know who's got the higher potential between Saka, Saliba, and Martinelli.
Oh, Saliba without doubt. I think Saliba without doubt is. He literally, to me, typifies generational. That, to me, Saka, and we're talking about minute things here, because Saka and Martinelli are absolutely outstanding players. But what I mean by this maybe is I'm trying to say is I think it's probably easier to find wide forwards / wingers that are very, very good. The likes of Sane, for example. Listen, Zaha is I'm not saying he's better or worse, but he's a quality player. I think when you think about someone like Saliba, there aren't too many players that are on his level.
That's interesting.
That's just for me. That isn't to say that either of them are crap. And the reason why I think we love Saka is because he's truly homegrown, Highland, through and through. He's only played for Arsenal, so I think that's maybe why people maybe like him a little bit more. But is he a better player in his position than Saliba is in his position? No, not for me.
These are great questions and comments coming in. Ash says Saliba is sensational. His attributes are unheard of at this age. Saka is brilliant too, though. Dave says harder to replace attacking players. Saka is homegrown and already world class. I'd get Martinelli and Saka done before Saliba. Saliba over Ferdinand, says Simon. I agree with Lee. Saliba has an unbelievable ceiling, so it really does come down to just getting the contract done. Yeah. Well, right, guys, well, we've filled up pretty much the whole show talking about this. It's a good discussion, good debate, and I think it touches a side of football that the financial side of the game I find very interesting while confusing and not something I know all that much about. I think contracts are so funny, right? Because you think you've got a player, but these things can be very fragile, and before you know it, the power's kind of with them more than with you, and then all things come into account. You know, are they playing better because they want a contract? Are they do? I'm not saying Saliba is, you know, but all these things come into play. And sometimes players sign contracts, it doesn't always work out, and then you're left with an asset that you're fundamentally paying too much for. They're so, as I mentioned, fragile, and they can kind of go either way, but we will see what happens. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. There are plenty of videos coming out in the coming days. Oh, there was a super chat I missed. Thank you so much. Haynes says, I'd get Kamada from Frankfurt, cheap and versatile. Did Kamada...
I'm not sure I heard of him, to be fair.
Well, I've definitely scouted on Football Manager. That's all I know.
Listen, I'm going home to play that in a minute.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't blame you. All right, guys. Yeah, we're going to leave it there. Lots of content coming out over the coming days. Yeah. The preview, box to box, Forever Arsenal's out already, as well as the Invincibles, which came out yesterday. So go check that out. And, of course, go check out Gunnar Lee at Gunnar_Lee on YouTube. I have literally just got a new video out with Matisse. Go and give it a like. It should literally be finishing soon. We were just talking about the London clubs and how they're going to be affected by sort of World Cup now. So yeah, it should be a good one, man. Go and follow me and smash a like. I'm on the way to 1,000. I am literally about 120. So if you like my views today, please make sure that you go and go and follow me over there, man. It's we're on the road, man. And listen, I'm loving the AFTV community, man. You guys are jokes. So yeah, go and watch it. I'm not even subscribed. I'm the worst. Yeah, listen, man. Listen. Well, so about 180 away from 1,000. So if you are interested, go over there and follow me and watch the video, man. It's just come out. So yeah, guys, go support. Honestly, there's Gunnar Lee and so many amazing Arsenal content 100%. Creators. Go check out their content. Yeah. And of course, more collabs to come, more content, all that. And Arsenal are now entering. It's funny, it's not really the second half of the season. We're not quite there yet, but it is now the crunch time. There's no World Cup to look at. There's no other milestone to go, right, once we get there, we could take stock. We're very much straight into it, because then the transfer window comes before we know it. It's the last stint, it's the last half, it's the last, that's it. You've got your players. There's no more signings, there's no more breaks. It's all about, just attacking it. So let's see what Arsenal can do. A big thanks to everyone for joining us. We've really enjoyed it. Hope you guys have too. As I said, more content coming. Enjoy a good Christmas, guys, and we'll see you on Boxing Day with everything we're covering. Thanks as well, Lee. Catch you on the next one.
Peace, man.